Alright class, so what we're going to be doing right now is simplifying radicals, and we're just going to be doing basic radicals. So we're going to walk through 3 examples, and then we'll see if you can understand it from that. If not, come in and see me. So our first problem is going to be the square root of 80. So the square root of 80. So we want to find what multiplied by what equals 80. Well, a good place to start, 8 times 10. So I'm going to write square root of 8 times 10. When you have this, you can break up these two numbers into their own radicals, put them underneath their own houses. So they are the square root of 8 and the square root of 10. Next, you want to continue breaking down these radicals. So what multiplied by what equals 8? How about 2 and 4? Well, then we move on to the square root of 10. What multiplied by what equals 10? This way, the square root of 5 times 2. Now again, break them into their own houses. Square root of 2, times the square root of 4, times the square root of 5, and the square root of 2. But hey, let's stop right there. We have a pair of square roots of 2. That means we can take those and just take the number out from underneath the radical. So these two become simply 2, no radical, but now we still have the square root of 4 and the square root of 5. So can we simplify these anymore? Well, hey, let's look at it like this. Square root of 4, that's simply 2. So 2 times 2, square roots of 5. And 2 times 2, that's 4. So I'm just going to bring my answer up right over here. So 2 times 2 is 4, and we have the square root of 5. So our answer, square root of 80 equals 4 square roots of 5. Now to make sure that you're correct, or that we're correct, what you should be doing is taking the square root of 80, putting that into your calculator, and getting out a decimal. That decimal that you get, or number with decimals, should be the same thing as if you put 4 square roots of 5 into your calculator. So that's your self-check. Put it in your calculator. What you started with and what you ended with, to see if you have the same thing. Okay? So let's do another problem here. Square root of 216. Alright, the square root of 216. So what I do with these problems that have big numbers is I look at my perfect square list. And I start with my largest perfect square, which was 144. I look to see if I can divide 216 by 144. That means I pull up my calculator and I type 216 divided by 144. What I'm probably going to get out is a number that has a decimal. I don't want any numbers with decimals. I want a whole number. So, if that's the case, let's try the next perfect square in line, which would be 121. Well, I've tried this already and that one doesn't work either. So, I tried the next one, which would be 100. That one doesn't work either. I kept on going down the list and the one that I did find that worked was 36. And when I divided 216 by 36, I was left with 6. So here's my 36, and here's what was left over the 6. So I put those underneath the radical because 6 times 36 equals 216. So now, break these up underneath their own houses. So the square root of 36 times the square root of 6. And hey, look at this. The square root of 36, that's a perfect square. That can just simplify down right away to 6. And the square root of 6, that just remains. So the reason why we found that perfect square, why we divided 216 by first 144, then by 121, then by 100, it was to find this perfect square. So instead of doing all of our branches, we can just skip and say that, hey, square root of 36, that's 6. Easiest way possible. Now are we done? Well, let's check. Can we break up the 6 any further? Well, we can break it up into the square root of 3 times the square root of 2, because 3 times 2 equals 6. But We can't break those down any further. So in the end, we just have to put them back. So our answer will be 6 square roots of 6. Now again, you should type this into your calculator, as well as the square root of 16. See if you come out with the same answer. Then we know we're correct. I got one more example. All right, last example. So our last example, I was making sure I was still in the camera view, is square root of 168, 162. So the square root of 162, what does that equal? Well, what two numbers multiplied together equals 162? Well, so first we want to look at that perfect square list. Start with 144. Does 162 divide into 144 with a whole number? Nope, it doesn't. Now try 121. Can you divide 162 by 121 and get a whole number out? No, you can't. What number you finally end up with is 81. Square root of 162 then can be split up into square root of 81 times 2. We give these numbers their own houses, their own radical signs. So we have the square root of 81 times the square root of 2. Okay? And now look, square root of 81. We know what that is. That's 9. That's on our perfect square list. So we're just going to write 9. Square root of 2, that just keeps on down, coming down along with us. Don't forget about it. So we have 9 square roots of 2. We cannot simplify the square root of 2 any further because there's nothing that multiplies to 2 besides 1 and 2, but we don't care about that. So lastly, put this into your calculator, 9 square roots of 2, and the square root is 162, and you should get out the same thing.